This episode is brought to you by Muntins Malts, a company that is passionate about providing premium malts to brewers worldwide. For over a century, Muntins has been a leading supplier of brewing and distilling malts, offering the finest British malted barley on the market. You can experience the difference Muntins offers by joining a recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club, because every kit that ships out now includes premium Muntins malt. You know, we've known the Muntins crew for a long time, and I can tell you, friend, you're going to love brewing with their grains. Ask your local supply shop to carry Muntins malts, or homebrewers can join our Trub Club at homebrewhappyhour.com/club, be a part of the community, and come brew with us. Thank you, Muntins, for supporting our efforts and homebrewers worldwide. Today's show is brought to you by Hopsdirect.com. Grown in the esteemed Yakima Valley on the Peterball family farm, Hopsdirect.com offers the widest variety of hops available online at incredibly competitive pricing. It's simple. They grow hops, they sell hops, and they ship hops straight from their family-owned farm to your doorstep. Producing the highest quality hops is Hopsdirect.com's passion, and they're proud to be an independent grower in the craft beer industry. Go to Hopsdirect.com right now and get what you need to make your brew day better. That's Hopsdirect.com. Today's show is brought to you by Imperial Yeast. You hear us gushing over Imperial Yeast all the time, and that's because their yeast performs for us in every batch that we brew. Imperial Yeast is adored by commercial breweries and home brewers alike. Their pitch-right pouches are jam-packed with over 200 billion fresh yeast cells, guaranteed to deliver flawless, fast fermentations every time. Imperial Yeast strains are grown by a team of pro brewers and home brewers who live to help other brewers learn more and ferment better. Join any recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club and get a free upgrade to premium Imperial Yeast with every recipe kit that ships out to you. Learn more at homebrewhappyhour.com/club and come brew with us.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
A Keg Cleaning Question, using Saaz as a substitute in a Kolsch, and 2 kegs, 1 Spunding valve. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 441. Well, hello, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. And if you, my friend, have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, you could go to homebrewhappyhour.com. You could use Joshua at homebrewhappyhour.com. Even better, call it in to 325, it's not on the screen, 325-305-6107. When I use your question on a future episode, you're going to get yourself a gift card to kegconnection.com. Let me see if I can get this working now. No, wait, people on YouTube, there we go. Now I'm getting it working. People on YouTube are probably furious. Like, what is he doing? What's wrong? The 11 of y'all that watch. Let me start fading out the music. I am one of your hosts, Joshua Stubing. Today I'm joined by nobody. It's just me. Poor James is swamped up at headquarters, so he couldn't do this. And Todd is getting some stuff done here in town where I'm at, and I've been avoiding him all day, hoping, oh, please don't call me for help with all this. So neither one of them could come do the episode this week, so it's just me. The show must go on. Could I have solicited the help of Lorena Evans again, back to back, making her almost a pseudo-permanent co-host? Yes, but no, I did not. I didn't play that card. I decided, hey, you know what? I could take a stab at it myself. Absolute worst case scenario, I'm the only one watching this right now because I'm so embarrassed by the way it turned out. No one's going to hear this anyway. I'm not going to publish it. That's the worst case scenario. But if you're a longtime listener, or if you just have watched even for a year, I don't edit stuff. I don't, and that's not a shtick. I'm lazy. So there's a very good chance that this will get published. But anyway, welcome to the show, my friends. I do have, and it's so funny that Todd and James aren't on it this week because I actually have 2 voicemails of the 3 questions. I was like, I'm going to bring them back for the guys because they keep mentioning, where are the voicemails? And the truth be told, this is now Joshua's Ranting Happy Hour podcast. I'll be very quick. Truth be told, I have a lot of voicemails. It's just a lot of them have either been questions we've taken recently, or they're not questions at all that are necessarily suitable to include on a podcast, which might be saying something. If I'm not, because the standard, the bar that is set for all you got to do really is ask an adequate question and suck up to me. That's it. And most of the time, y'all don't even suck up to me, and I still take your questions. But joking aside, I do have a lot of voicemails, but I'd always appreciate more now that I actually have it working on the screen. Reminder, call them in. Todd doesn't think that y'all are real in the audience. So even if it's just feedback and I never play it on the future episode, call in the hotline, 325-305-6107. Say, Todd, I am real. Because there's only so many Google voice numbers I can create and leave fake voicemails for Todd to let me keep this show going. But anyway, no one is here to rein me in. I'm going to do my best. This might be the longest episode ever. More than likely, might be the shortest one because I don't have experts to answer the initial question and then for me to drag it out. So we're going to see. I did not change anything. Not even 10 minutes ago was I informed really that I'm going to be doing this on my own. So we're just taking a stab at it. Let's see how this goes. Again, worst case scenario, it does not get published. But anyway, we've got a little bit of small talk to get through before I take on the questions. First and foremost, people think I've been gaslighting them about the gong of questions. Let's see if this works. If you're not hearing that, I got to go back to the audiologist or whatever, the ear, nose, and throat doc, something, because I swear every week I play it and more times than not, people comment, did not hear the gong. So either I'm gaslighting y'all or y'all gaslighting me, but I wanted to get that out of the way, maybe without running it through Zoom, which I know I've also said for a few episodes now, we're going to switch to something different. I'm testing four different platforms, have not been happy with any of them yet. Tried StreamYard, don't like the way it controls or lack thereof. Tried Riverside. I think the last one we're going to try is called VDO. This one our buddy Trent had recommended over at The Brew Show YouTube channel. Go check him out. He used that whenever he does the live stuff. So I'm hoping that will work. In the best case, or the best thing about VDO is I think it's the only free option of all the ones I've tried. But if you have a suggestion for a platform that's not Zoom for us to do remote podcast recordings, leave it in the comments below, especially if you're watching at youtube.com/homebrew happy hour, because that does help the algorithm. If you're listening to us, like 99.999% of you are, text it to 325-305-6107 or comment on any of our socials or email me or do whatever. Telegram me. You're an adult. Do whatever you want. But anyways, getting to the small talk, the recipe kits, the Japanese rice loggers, if you're just listening, you should be receiving them now by the time this publishes on August the 7th. If you haven't, hit me up at that same hotline number, but they all went out on Monday. I made a day trip up there. The yeast got delayed last week. Can pie was a seasonal offering from them that wasn't in pouches by the time I had requested it. That's my bad. They still did, though, send me a ton of Global, which is one of their lager yeast. Supposed to work great for this style still, but it also got delayed. So it didn't even arrive until last Friday. So I did a day trip on Monday, but they all are out, which leads me to this month's recipe kit, the delicious Amber Ale. This is a Fat Tire clone recipe, not just Fat Tire, the original Fat Tire. Are you tired of going to your liquor store or your grocery store and seeing Fat Tire in its current state? And I know some people, some purists, craft beer enthusiasts are going to be like, Josh, haven't they always tweaked it? I thought they were open about that. And that's debatable. I'm pretty sure our buddy Matt Meadows, who I haven't talked to in a while, but one of my best friends in the industry, Matt Meadows, had told me years ago that they tweak the recipes. That's not uncommon for breweries to do, I guess. Maybe not macro breweries, but craft breweries, sure, they tweak them, this or that. But the current iteration isn't just a logo redo. It is a full-blown recipe redo. So if you want to live in nostalgia land with us and reminisce about the good days when Fat Tire Amber Ale was just as smooth as could be, then go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour, join a recipe receiving tier, and I'm going to get you that kit. It was made by Lorena Evans many years ago. Oh, wait, or was this one made by James? James, if you're watching at YouTube, leave a comment or a thumbs down so I know you're watching. But I'm pretty sure Lorena came up with this recipe, and it's dead on. We've had it before on tap at opening weekend at Todd's buddy's house. Oh, no, wait, that was a Yingling clone. We have had it on tap not that long ago, but I haven't brewed it in forever. I believe Todd's the last one in our group to brew it. I'm excited to brew it. Pop, we're going to have to figure out a brew day live. I put it up on the screen prematurely. That says July 25th. You're like, that's in the past. Yeah, that was when it was supposed to be last month, but we had to cancel because Todd kept me up in Colorado City doing an install. So that's neither here nor there. We'll come back with y'all when we have a date for a updated Brew Day Live, and we'll be brewing this delicious amber ale. I'm telling you guys, it's worth joining. Go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and come brew with us. Also, I made a note here to tell people it's not official, but it's like 85-15, maybe even 90-10% sure we're going to be doing an alt call this October, which means you should probably start brewing an alt beer sooner than later. If you were in our at Trub Club this year in the month of March, maybe, then you've already got that kit and you're probably already brewed it, and it might be the best batch ever. Save some for at least 2 bottles worth for when we can officially announce when we're going to be doing the Alt Pokal 2025. But yeah, stay tuned for that. What else do I have on here? We also have, I did say, I wanted to mention how I've been hit up by a few of y'all. My buddy Jonathan Marut was one of the most recent people to hit me up and say, "Hey, Joshua, did you notice that there's a lot more Asahi Super Dry clone recipe kits going out from people lately?" And I said, "Yes, I have noticed. I am a trendsetter." Our buddy, and I say trendsetter, I may have just hopped on the bandwagon at the same time a lot of other people did. Our buddy David Heath, he released his recipe today on his website. We're recording this on a Wednesday. I'm recording this on a Wednesday. You could go, I saw it in his Facebook group, but it's on his YouTube channel. Very popular home brewer David Heath. And then, of course, whenever we were doing the Brew Day Live, our good buddy Steve from the Apartment Brewer had released his video as well. And I imagine his turned out better than ours. Even though ours turned out really good, he's just a better home brewer. But it is cool to see all these people doing Asahi Super Dry specifically because I had such a good time with that beer on my recent cruise this summer in early June. But I also did a couple of actual craft brewer friends of mine who work at breweries told me they're predicting, we always do the what do you think will happen next year kind of recap at the end of every year on the podcast. Like, the trend for next year will be hazies. We probably said in 2017 or whatever. I'd predict, because of the influence of my craft brewing friends, rice lagers might be a big thing in the craft world very soon, just because they're very straightforward to drink. They're exotic enough to be different than just an American light lager, even though they're similar. There's no corn in a Japanese rice lager, but they're similar in structure and build and whatnot. And also, like I said, they're exotic enough for people to think, ooh, something different to try. So mark me down on episode 441. Joshua's saying Japanese rice lager might be the future. That is actually all the small talk I have. Looking at the clock, that's par for the course. I've dread the small talk out long enough, so we are going to get right into it. 3 questions, 1 man. We're going to see how bad this goes. Our first question, it's a voicemail. I had to take it. It's our buddy Marty from Omaha.
Hey, Triple H crew. This is Marty from Omaha. I was cleaning a keg today on my keg washer and wondering, I never know how long to leave them on there. Assuming that I'm not letting the keg sit for weeks to dry out, is 15 minutes acceptable? I don't know what you guys do. One of those little plastic sprinkler fish tank pump type cleaners, just to let you know. And I'm using one of the most popular cleaners in the country. Anyway, love your show always, and good to talk to you guys.
Marty, my friend, I didn't even listen to your question because I was just like, I'm just going to take his question because I like the guy. No, I'm kidding. I obviously I took this question because I was anticipating Todd to be on here, and I was anticipating Todd to be like, well, here's what we do. This is a question that I like to take. We actually don't use any kind of keg cleaner. He's probably referring to like one of those keg washer Mark IIs or maybe even the Mark Ones. We used to sell them at kegconnection.com, but it's been a while since we've carried them. The keg washers that we have are named Todd and sometimes Joshua and our longtime keg washer Vilver up at headquarters. But this is going to be so funny because I can't drag this question out longer than I want to. Here's how I do it. How about that? Let me just say how I wash kegs, and then we can take people's comments if you're watching below. I don't overthink it. I do brew clean. He's talking about the most popular one. It's PBW. This is a safe space. We can talk about competitors' products. I don't know why you're not using brew clean. He's using PBW. I let my kegs, on average, soak in as hot as my faucet water will pour from just my home supply. I'm not like using well water. I'm using city supply in the city of San Marcos, and I'm not doing anything to it. Filling up the keg to the brim with a tablespoon and some change worth of brew clean. And that's probably 120 degrees Fahrenheit, if I had to guess. I've never actually measured it, but it's hot. And I let it soak in that keg for at least 1 hour. That allows me to, if I'm doing multiple kegs after that, I can still reuse that, like do half in one keg, half in another, top off with really hot water on both, maybe add a little bit more brew clean. It just helps the solution go further and helps me feel like I'm helping the environment. And that's what this is all about in my life. Is I'm a staunch environmentalist. But kidding aside, after an hour, I dump it, rinse it with clean water. That's obviously the absolute most important step. You don't want brew clean residue, it's detergent, soap, sitting in your keg. When I'm thoroughly rinsed that, which is when I have it upside down, like one of your keg washing machines would do, and rinsing it out like it's a clean in place ball or whatever, and I can and for sure it's just clean water that's rinsed it all out. I will leave it upside down on its handles. Yeah, probably 15, maybe half an hour. Depends if I'm doing other stuff and I get distracted. Then I put the lid on, which I should clarify. I sometimes either put the lid on while it's soaking, or I make a smaller batch or use some of the original 5 gallons. If, again, I'm doing a lot of kegs that day of brew clean. If the lid is particularly gunky, I will make a solution for it to soak in. Most of the time, I don't have that issue with kegs. Maybe the last time up at headquarters, we did root beer. I really had to. Actually, what I ended up doing on that one is just replacing the O-ring because I couldn't get that root beer stench out. But anyway, rinse the keg, dries however long it takes me to let it dry. No more than 1 hour. How about that? I could be very distracted, and then it's 1 hour tops. Turn it over, put the lid back on it. I then fill it with CO2. I purge the oxygen out of it, and I leave it. And then I refill it with CO2 at like 15 PSI or 10 to 15, whatever I have it set at that given time. And then I put it in storage until it's ready to be used. Before I use it, obviously, every time I am sanitizing it. However, it's not important to sanitize it at that point because I like to sanitize right before I'm going to be using it, just for the ease of mind that it is sanitized right now in this moment, not I sanitized it, but I did that 2 weeks ago. Oh, is it bad? And then I was just a waste of the sanitizer in that initial moment. But all that to say, answering your question, as much as I could drag it out, Marty from Omaha, yeah, 15 minutes is totally acceptable. I don't think you need to overthink it. And regardless of what cleaner you're using, I know people who use OxyClean. I know people who just use, actually, I don't know anyone who uses just soap and water, but OxyClean, Brew Clean, the PBW, all those powder-based cleansers are basically the same kind of thing. Brew Clean's the best, but they're all basically the same kind of thing. As long as you rinse that out thoroughly, let it dry. If you feel like it's drip dried in 15 minutes, fantastic. put the lid back on it and put it away. Or do like I do, add some CO2 to it, purge it, so that way you can then fill it and it's just going to have CO2 in it. I feel like that's what's kept our kegs that I keep here in the best possible condition. And nothing is a better feeling than when I'm going to keg and I grab a keg or two, because we're doing 10-gallon batches, off of the wall. I purge them. Sometimes I purge them to check and it's perfectly clean. Not sometimes, every time I purge them to check they are clean. I can sanitize them, do a closed transfer out of that sanitizer into the other keg, then do a closed transfer from my fermenter of the beer into that keg. Bada bing, bada boom. We're good. I think I answered your question enough. I'd love to drag it out more. Todd, do you have anything to add? Oh, no, I don't. James, you have anything to add? No, I don't. That's it, guys. That's it for the first question. Marty, thank you so much for submitting that question. If y'all aren't hearing the gong, I'm going to go crazy. Moving on to question number 2. But first, a reminder, friends. You want a gift card to kegconnection.com like our friend Marty got? Then call it in like he did to 325-305-6107. I'd love to give you the new guy's money because it's not Todd's money anymore at kegconnection.com, although it sort of is, because the last times I've been handing out money, I have just been PayPaling them the difference for what it is. That's kind of what I've been doing right now. So it sort of is still giving y'all Todd's money. Question number 2 is an email from our buddy Uriah, and he wrote, "Hey Josh, writing in again for some help understanding hops. My friend gave me a pound of Saaz after he bulk bought several pounds. I was actually planning on brewing a Kolsch next, but your Homebrew Happy Hour recipe says I should use Hallertau Mittelfrüh. Would you use Saaz in a Kolsch? Mind you, I haven't gotten any ingredients yet except for the gifted hops, so it's not like I must use these hops in a Kolsch. Thanks for your help, our Kolsch King." Cheers, Uriah. Uriah, my friend, I like being called Kolsch King. I'm not. I haven't. I reserve that title for the people who win our annual Kolsch Cup, and I think I actually stole that from George Colson, who was one of the first winners. He may have been the first winner because he had a shirt made. I think his wife made him a shirt that said Kolsch King. So either way, I actually wrote notes down on this question because I was trying to best verbalize why I wouldn't use Saaz in a Kolsch and why I use Mittelfrüh in a Kolsch. And I probably wouldn't use Mittelfrüh unless I had to in like a German Pils or a Japanese rice lager. My pop and I had to use them because I forgot to bring home Saaz. And I was too cheap to just drive down to SoCo in Austin and get some Saaz. So we ended up using Mittelfrüh, which wasn't a bad choice. However, the reason I'm saying that is because there's some key differences. And so looking at my notes, what I wrote here is emphasize difference on floral and herbal. The Hallertau Mittelfrüh, what makes it so good for a Kolsch is that it helps add that floral fruitiness, that hint of floral to the end beer, the end result, the Kolsch that you're trying to make, and be within style. It's not like a fruit when you think of a fruited beer as much as just on the tip of your tongue, in the depths of your nose. You're going to be getting a little hints of floral, and it's more that kind of brings out, like I like to think of it as like flowers, springtime. Like that's what I get when I drink a Kolsch and what I expect from when I'm drinking a Kolsch. If you watch Kolsch Cup 2025, you probably notice, I think I said floral a lot. If you entered it and you pull up your score sheet, no doubt in my mind, I made notes on all of y'all's, most of y'all's. Great subtle floral notes and stuff like that, because that is like a compliment. That's what you want from a Kolsch. Now, if you're using Saaz, what you're more going to get is the herbal side of hops. In my opinion, from my experience, like with James using Saaz all the time in his lagers and me using Saaz every now and then when I can remember to bring them back. And that's more like leafiness, it's, what did I write there? I wrote fresh cut. That doesn't, no, because that makes it feel like grass, like leafy herbal. It's not the easiest for me to obviously verbalize, they're both noble hops, right? Saaz and Mittelfrüh are both noble hops, Saaz being Czech and Mittelfrüh being German, Hallertau Mittelfrüh. So I'm not going to argue over like which one is best in whatever scenario, as much as maybe I should go to the BJCP guidebook, but when I think of the style of like a Czech Pils, or when I think of a German Pils, I think more herbal, crisp than I do floral notes. I don't know the word I'm trying to describe, because the Kolsch is crispy too, but it's obviously a hybrid ale. It's not a lager, and so it doesn't have kind of that Pilsner, that lager bite that a lot of like a German Pils would have or a Czech Pils would have. But what I'm trying to get out of it is like the yeast is complemented in a Kolsch by the Mittelfrüh more than I think it is from the Saaz. The specific strain used for a Kolsch already kind of brings out a fruity note to it. So that floralness from your Hallertau Mittelfrüh complements it better than if you'd use Saaz. With that being said, are you going to have a delicious Kolsch if you brew it with Saaz and that's the only hop you're using? Of course, I have no doubt in my mind. I'm just saying, if I could pick, and if I was not too lazy to go to a homebrew shop or to ask our friends at hopstrat.com to send me extra hops so I could bring home the appropriate ones for the style I'm doing, then maybe I'd make a bigger deal out of this. But if I were you, Uriah, and you have those hops that were given to you, I'd use them. Like, if you want to brew a Kolsch, do it. Or, hear me out, you made it clear you don't have any ingredients except for the hops, then brew a Czech Pils. We have a Pilsner Urquell clone at homebrewhappyhour.com, free PDF that you can download and print. We have James's I think it's a Warsteiner clone. We call it Überdrunt. I used to call it Unterdrunt until pedantic Germans corrected me, like, Joshua, that is not how you would say under pressure for a beer. We would say Überdrunt. Okay, whatever, guys. Both of those recipes are absolutely free. If I had Saaz hops and I had not bought other ingredients yet, I'm probably going to brew a Pils. Am I going to substitute them in a Kolsch, like going out of my way to do it? No. Have I substituted before because, again, I'm lazy and I brought the wrong hops home? Yes, but that is not your scenario, Uriah. You don't have to be like that. Like, you don't have to be like me. You can go to the store and buy the appropriate ingredients for a fantastic German Pils or Pilsner Urquell, the original Pilsner. That'll start some comment wars below if you're watching at YouTube. They call themselves the original Pilsner. I just know some Germans in the industry who claim it was technically Germans who invented it, the Pils, ethnic Germans who invented the Pils. So that'll start some stuff in the comments. But Uriah, I think you're better off using those Saaz in a style like a Pils. Get yourself some Hallertau Mittelfrüh, or you know what? Or just don't even listen to me, because I brought up George earlier. George, you got to remind me. I think you're the one who used Sterling for your award-winning Kolsch. So what do I know about brewing a good Kolsch with substituted hops? Obviously, people use Sterling, which, if you're new to the show, it's one of my least favorite noble hops in existence, because every time Todd uses it, it's like a pepper Pils that he makes. He's like, oh, you want to try my Sterling Pils? No, not anymore. You fool me once. What did George W. say? Shame on. You're not going to fool me again, okay? I'm not going to fall for it again. But I was a judge when I think it was George. It may have been Brian. I forget Brian's last name off the top of my head, but I believe it was George K. who did use Sterling, and joke was on me. I loved it. So Uriah, do whatever you want. And if you don't like it and you're watching at youtube.com/homebrew happy hour, let me know in the comments below. Josh, you're especially stupid today because you don't have Todd and James to lean on. And I will say, you're absolutely right. Thanks for helping the algorithm promote our show. Uriah, thank you for submitting that question. I am flying through. This is going to be the Homebrew Happy Half Hour, because I don't have anyone else as a crutch to answer and then totally drag it out. This is what Todd means by, like, you should try doing a show without dragging out questions. Well, boss, this is what happens. So wanted to get the gong out there. Uriah, thank you so much for submitting that question. A reminder, guys, if you email it like Uriah did, that's good and all, but even better, call it in to 325-305-6107. Get yourself a gift card to kegconnection.com when I use your voicemail on a future episode, like our third and final question of this week's extremely short show. It is our buddy Jackson from Colorado.
What's going on, fellas? I had a few questions for you about kegging. So I just got my first couple of kegs. They were given to me from a fellow homebrewer, and I'm interested in trying pressure fermenting and kegging. Haven't done either of them yet, but really excited to. My first question is with smaller batches. If you got a 5-gallon corny keg, can you keg it and carbonate it with only like a 1 or 2 gallon batch, or does it have to be a full 5-gallon batch? Second question is, if you were going to do pressure fermentation and you had 2 empty kegs that you were going to ferment in, would you split them and do 2 spunding valves, or could you rig it between the two so they're running off of 1 spunding valve with the same brew fermenting in 2 vessels? Thanks, and I'm looking forward to hearing a response from you guys. Really appreciate it. Again, this is Jackson from Colorado Springs.
Jackson, my friend, thank you so much for submitting that voicemail. Again, you're like, Josh, another keg question. Yeah, I thought Todd was going to be on the show. Sue me, okay? I tried to take James was so swamped. I was kind of I didn't even ask. So I'm not even trying to throw him under the bus, poor guy. I was at headquarters on Monday and I was like, hey man, this week, are you good for the show? Because we've been busy and we did that install and da-da-da-da-da. And then he reminded me, there's a chance Todd's not going to be here on Wednesday when we record. And he gave me that look where it's like the unspoken, please don't ask me to do this because I'm too nice to actually say no and I'll do it, but don't ask. And so I read that and I was like, oh, hey man, no problem. I won't even bother you. So I keep throwing him on the bus that he couldn't do it. James probably would have done the show if I had bothered him, but he looked like on Monday, man, don't do that to me because I'm already going to be doing everything else with Todd out of here. So it's Todd's fault that I took these questions. I wholeheartedly thought Todd would be on the show. I don't know why. He did kind of make me feel stupid when I asked him. He's like, I've got stuff to do. Why would you think I'd be on the show? And then I just thought he could come hang out in my office here and we could do it in person. It's been so long, but he hasn't. And I'm here and I'm digressing for my own digressions. Jackson from Colorado sent in a question and it's a 2-parter. Let me take the first part first. And it's going to be very short and sweet. This is Todd Burns' dream episode. Yeah, dude, you can absolutely take a full 5-gallon keg and only fill it up with 1 gallon and be fine. The one thing I would suggest, though, if you can do a closed transfer, make sure that keg is fully purged, because the more head space that you have in your vessel that you're kegging to, or I guess fermenting in, but really what we're talking about here is kegging to, what I would, pardon me, he was talking about fermenting as well. Either way, what I'm getting at is the more headspace you have, the more room there is for oxygen to thrive. But if you purge that thing, as in the lid is closed, your gas is on, you fill it up with CO2, then you put the gas back on and you fill it back up, there's only CO2 that's in there. When you're fermenting, the CO2 is obviously being made through the process of fermentation. So if you have a spunding valve on there, I'm assuming because you're doing pressure fermentation, that's going to regulate the pressure. All of that oxygen is being pushed out of that spunding valve as it's getting to whatever you set it at, which is probably 5 or 10 PSI. That's perfect. If you're going to use that same vessel to drink out of, or you're going to transfer, you're going to be transferring closed transfer anyways. I'm assuming if you have the means of pressure fermentation, you probably have the means of pressure closed transfer. So purge the next keg, the serving keg that's going into. It doesn't matter if it's 5 gallons, 4 gallons, or 1 gallon. You want to still do the same process every time of making sure it's going into an oxygen-free environment. You go in there, you throw it in your fridge, you cold crash it, you force carbonate it, and bada bing, bada boom, you're enjoying your beer. That covers the first question, and I think I covered it pretty good. If you would disagree, leave a comment below. Even if it's not flattering towards me, I can handle it. Let's get that algorithm going. But the headspace has never been an issue for me in regards to worrying if there's too much. Where it has been an issue for me with pressure fermentation, I'll just bring it up for the sake of warning you, Jackson. My pop and I did that one batch of Schwartz beer, and I brought home it's actually technically an 11-gallon to brim keg that Todd has had for 15 years at least. We had it when we were operating in his backyard in San Marcos. It looks like a dairy farm thing, this big, massive stainless steel keg. And I thought, Pop, Let's use that to ferment in. How cool will that be? We're going to ferment it's stainless steel, so it's hygienic. But we did 11 gallons. We basically filled it to brim. And I'm like, my dad, God bless him, because he'll ask the right questions, and I sometimes just lie through my teeth because I'm the host of Homebrew Happy Hour, and I should know this. Instead, he asked, like, is that enough headspace, or are you going to be fine? And instead of going, I don't actually know, Pop, I should hit up James or Lorena or Todd or somebody who knows better, I was like, yeah, dude, we're pressure fermenting. As soon as it builds up pressure, it's just to go right through the valve. And what happened, though, Jackson and friends listening, is it built up pressure. But when it got to, not quite 10, which is when we had it start expelling, it obviously built up so much and so quickly that by the time it had hit that pressure for the PRV, for the Spunding valve to actually work, it's spewing. I came into my office the day later, and I'm not going to pan the camera because my office is still kind of dirty. Actually, you know what? I could pan the camera a little bit. Let's do that. So there's my Metamucil. There's you can't really see, but those guitars on the wall over there, covered. The humidor over there, covered. Everything was basically covered in delicious Schwarzbier. It was a horror show. And I don't know if you saw on the back wall, I have a really nice Strat Deluxe, and I also have a really nice Gibson Firebird, an O2 Firebird. And thankfully, the Firebird wasn't touched by the Schwarzbier. But my Strat was. Oh, I came to my poor wife. My office is detached from the house. I built it. My father-in-law built it in my garage. It's like 150 square foot, give or take. And I must have been screaming loud because she comes in here like 3 minutes after I say an expletive. I'm like, mother, and she goes, is everything okay? And she sees me just taking stuff down and like, basically crying like it's my friend dying in my arms. I'm going to take care of you. And God bless her, because she helped me. She took the nice guitars in and cleaned them for me as I scrubbed the walls. It was everywhere. And I don't bring that story up for everyone to laugh at me and go, oh, you idiot, you should have known better. As much as I thought the Spunding valve would take any pressure out before it could become a problem. I didn't account for the headspace needed for krausen and all that stuff that happens in fermentation. So, I am a dummy for not thinking of that. And I'm a dummy for confidently telling my pop, yeah, that 2.5 inches of headspace is plenty, Pop. What are you worried about, old man? Go back, you boomer. Go back to your AM radio or whatever. Let the real men brew. And that batch actually ended up being terrible. When I had to purge the keg and try to salvage it and all that, I let oxygen in because I hastily acted irrationally by purging the keg out. And I'm doing this all outside because every time I pull the tap, it's just pouring out, totally disgusting. And I took the lid off just to see, can I save it? And at that time, it didn't taste that bad, even though it was an active fermentation. And so I thought, oh no, wait a second, I just introduced oxygen. So then I tried to close it up and just let it sit, because I was like, you know what? It's going to work because it's still actively fermenting. I'm going to build up more pressure. The CO2 will fill this. I'll be fine. And it was still flowing out of the thing for a good day. In my garage, though, it wasn't spewing. It was just kind of volcano flowing. And but the garage was way hotter than in here. So Lord knows that temperature change didn't help at all. And where I'm going with this is just be careful fermenting in kegs that you do have enough headspace. When it comes, though, to consuming your beer in a keg, if you have a great 5-gallon batch in your fermenter and you want to share it via kegs, you could do that. The headspace doesn't matter as much. Just purge that baby out of CO2. I think I enjoyed that first part of that question out pretty well. So moving on to the second part of Jackson's question. 2 kegs, 1 Spunding valve. That's, the clickbaity thing I did for the title here because, well, I'm a child. If you don't get the reference, then don't Google that. But I also took notes for that too. Oh, no, I didn't take notes. I'll put the photo of it on the screen right now. This is a question for Trong. Trong, when he sent me the first Spundit, which I think the first one he sent me was the 2.0. And then he also sent me a 3.0, which he calls Jellyfish. The first one, he included what he calls a jumper kit. And if you look at photo that I had on the screen, I'll put it back on again. You'll see this was from a Reddit post he did, I think like 5 years ago with his Spunding 1.0, or maybe been the 2. He absolutely is a man who does not waste. He will put this jumper cable, which just goes from one Keg's gas post. So it goes to a gas disconnect. It used to be a CM battery disconnect. I don't think he uses ours anymore, but it goes to that onto the gas post of the first Keg. Then, or I guess you can call that the second Keg. Then over to the gas post, which also has the Spunding valve on the other Keg, which is where you regulate it. So the idea being, it's taking from the first Keg, which is the Keg with the Spunding valve on it. I'm all over when I'm referring to Keg 1 and 2. Keg 1 is a Keg with the Spunding valve on it. Keg 2 is the Keg connected by the jumper. So you're regulating the pressure for the Spunding valve on Keg 1. And instead of just exhausting it into the ether, into the room, instead of hearing the psh, or using his little Keg thermometer with the bubble, it's a bubbler. Instead of seeing that, you have a jumper on there. So it's going to take, all it's going to take is the, whatever you set it to, 5 or 10 PSI. It's going to take that and take it over to the other Keg and regulate it as well. That's my understanding. Now, Trong may be like, no, Josh, that's not to use them both at the same time. But my understanding was that's how it works. And that's how you can do too. And now that I'm saying that out loud, I'm actually wondering, or is that how you can take the CO2 and carbonate another Keg? I'm going to actually have to ask Trong on that. And maybe if I can get an answer from him before I publish this episode, I'll cut in right now and be like, I take all that back. Actually, what it was blah, 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 blah. So let me give like a 5-second. If there's still a 5-second stoppage right here, then y'all know I answered it right and we don't got to worry about it. So, okay, perfect. I don't actually know if I had to inject Tron's correct answer there or if I got it right. But we're going to just say, Jadson, I appreciate your voicemail, your question, everybody's questions. And again, a reminder, if you call it in like our buddies Marty and Jadson did this episode to 325-305-6107, and I take your question on a future episode, you get yourself a gift card to kegconnection.com. We're in the 40-minute range. That wasn't as bad as it could have been. I don't ever want to do an episode by myself again without more tailoring the questions to stuff I'm more confident in. But I also may be hitting up Lorena and John. Well, I did hit up Jonathan Marute, but he is at the deer lease, or it wouldn't be the deer lease. It's not deer season, but he's at the hunting lease this weekend, and I didn't want to bother him. So I was almost going to get my dad on, but then I thought, then we're both just going to be like, duh, no, duh. So I just attempted it myself. Not looking for y'all's kudos on me or any of that. I just am tired if I have the content, not doing an episode for y'all because we had to cancel a couple weeks ago. And, since 2025, I've had, I think, the most amount of delayed or rescheduled or postponed things for Homebrew Happy Hour than we ever have since the dark times we don't talk about, when it was like 9 months of not doing any content. So I'm trying to not let a week turn into 2, turn into a month, whatever, and keep the content flowing. If this was a total disaster to you, and a lot of y'all are no strangers to that, when I did certain experimental episodes, I immediately get feedback from a lot of y'all that are like, I do not like that, or I do like that. And most of the time, the most flattering ones get my attention the most, and I just keep going with that. But if you don't like it, okay, I understand. Maybe a solo episode in the future is not what I'm going to do. Or maybe I need to have some backup content for an episode. Like our buddy Fred, who goes by Blind Brew Guy, he had suggested before earlier this year, what if you did showcases, doesn't have to be long, but about the style for the beer that you're doing for Chub Club that month. So I could have done a 15-minute episode or whatever about Japanese rice lager last month. Or when we did the Kolsch, I could have done a 4-hour episode showcasing the Kolsch. And this month, Fat Tire, could have done one about the original and all that. If I have to, it's only August 7th, man. If I have to, I might end up doing that later this month. Or if you thought the solo episode is fine, let me know. If you're at youtube.com/homebrew happy hour, let me know in the comments below, because that certainly helps out the algorithm a lot more. But if you want to get yourself a gift card to Keg Connection, and it's good enough feedback, or preferably a question, call it in to 325-305-6107. My friends, listening and watching, because normally I say that to Todd and James, but they're not here. My friends, that's all I have for this week. I certainly hope that you enjoyed this episode. Final reminder, thank you to our sponsors, Hops Direct, Muntins, Monster Brewing Hardware, and Imperial Yeast for providing the premium ingredients that goes into our recipe kits. And this month, that Amber Ale, the Fat Tire original recipe, is going to be shipped to your doorstep. Do not miss out. Go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. And that will do it for this week. So my friends, I will catch y'all next week. And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, you could go to homebrewhappyhour.com. You could email joshua@homebrewhappyhour.com. But even better, have I mentioned that we have a hotline, 325-305-6107, and that when I use your voicemail, you get yourself a gift card to kegconnection.com. Not sure I've mentioned that enough. Thank you to our show sponsors like Muntins Malt, premium grains for a better brew day. If you aren't already brewing with Muntins, give them a try by joining the Trub Club at a recipe receiving level. For the best hops available online, give our friends at hopsdirect.com a visit and pick up what you need for your next brew day. Also, get a pack of premium Imperial yeast along with delicious recipes from us when you join the Trub Club. One more time, go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and come brew with us. A huge thank you to every member of our Trub Club. We love y'all. I'm Joshua Stubing. Thanks for listening.